What's up, Blue Roof Nation? I don't know why I keep doing it. I really like that. It's your boy Jonathan, and welcome back to the one and the only John's Corner. Anyone who follows me on different venues like Clean Jeans, check that out. These links right there. You better be listening to our podcast. Or watch these videos like this and stuff, know that I have issue with remakes and reboots and all that stuff. I'm not a fan. Come up with something original, make something new. But there are some remakes, some reboots that I do like, that I do think actually surpass the originals in some aspects. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not this new Boom reboot, but the TV show is technically a reboot of the movie. Way better. Battlestar Galactica, which when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be horrible. You can't remake the original. How dare you? It's gonna be Starbucks a woman? No, no. And then I watched the miniseries, the first episode of the miniseries, and I'm like, oh my god, what? No, this is the only Battlestar. I love it. Oh my god, look at Starbucks. No. So sometimes reboots are better. Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes. And a few years ago, they were talking about rebooting Xena. Now, I'll be honest, I never really got into Xena as much when I was a kid. Huge Hercules fan. Loved Hercules. I'd watch Xena every once in a while. But I was really big into Xena. And I actually just started getting into Hercules and Xena now. Oh, well, like I said, I always liked Hercules, but I'm starting to get into Xena now. I'm watching the show together. Like seeing all the crossovers and all that, and I'm starting to really love Xena. And the guy who was remaking Xena, I was a big fan of his. I've loved his other work and his podcast, Children of Tendu. Like, dude's really smart. He's really together. So I was like, all right, this could be a cool show. It was gonna be darker and gritty, and I was like, all right, I can get with that. They were comparing it to like Spartacus and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I love Spartacus. Let's give this a ride. So you know, it eventually never really, it never happened. It eventually just, it went away. And it was like, alright, you know, that kind of sucks. Like, it would have been cool to see what they do with it. And, but one thing that I was confused about was like, well, how do you have Xena without Hercules? That'd be like having Angel without Buffy. It doesn't really work. And the other day, Jane Espenson, one of the best writers in the world, like if you ever want to know what a good television show is, like, I want something new to watch, what should I watch? Just go on IMDb, look up Jane Espenson. Any show she works on, almost guaranteed it's an amazing show. Anyways, almost guaranteed it's an amazing show. But she tweeted out, she retweeted a tweet that the guy gave out, that list that on his website he put the pitch for Xena, the Bible for Xena, and then the script for the pilot episode. And I was like, oh shit, like I could see what the Xena would have been. And so my plan was to read the pitch, then the Bible, and the first episode. I got halfway through the pitch and I bailed. And that brings us to today's episode of John's Corner. It doesn't... you guys know how I feel about negativity. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I see this more and more, and it confuses me, and I'm trying to find out how to word this. So, if you had the premise of that, like what was in the pitch, if you took away Xena, would have been a really cool idea. I'll give you that. It would have been something that I'd watch and get behind. It's really interesting. If you take away Xena and you make her somebody else, anybody else in the world, and I'd be on board with it. Her name could be and I'd be like, all right, cool, I'd watch it. Because it was a cool idea. But it's not Xena. It misses the essence of Xena, and it misses it so much so that it belittles the character of Xena. In the pitch, and it actually made me glad that for a reboot that I was kind of excited for, it made me glad it didn't happen, because in the pitch he stressed that you only get one shot to remake a property, and if that's the case, this was not the shot to take. Because like I said, it misses the mark of what Xena is. Especially now that I'm rewatching it and I'm really getting into it heavily, it's like his take, he said that he wanted to be more feminist. And his take was less feminist. Under the guise of being more feminist. I don't know if that makes sense. But Xena is very much Angel. I'm a Buffy fan, so bear with me. Hercules is the Buffy to Xena's Angel. There you go. That, I don't know why that was so hard for me to like put together how to say. Xena needs Hercules. And in this take, he took, basically, so if you know the original Xena, Xena was a warlord who dated Ares and was like the most feared warlord in all of Greece. She met Hercules and she was inspired by him, and she basically turned over a new leaf and became one of the greatest heroes Greece has ever known. And in this version, they took her romance with Ares and they turned it into a romance with Hercules, and they turned Hercules into a villain. They got rid of all the magic too. There's no gods in this version. Ares and Hercules are warlords, and Xena was one of Hercules' lieutenants. So basically, yeah, so let's get with what this version is. So Hercules was a warlord, and his reputation as Greece's greatest hero was one that he manufactured. He would do, basically, him and some thugs would fake these tasks, these labors, the 12 labors that Hercules is known for. And so they would get a reputation as a hero and all this, but really he was just a thug, and Xena was one of his lieutenants. And eventually Xena, she sees the error of her ways and she turns against him, and she has to save Gabrielle, and she goes to war with Hercules, and it's this big thing. And it's like, that's a cool story. I can get behind that. But you take away everything that makes Xena Xena. And in a way, you lessen her. Part of what made Xena great was she was the badass. She didn't work for the badass. She was the badass. Yeah, she dated Ares, and Ares is the god of war, but he was a god. She was a mortal. So, and how many other warlords work for Ares and can accomplish half the shit Xena did? So it wasn't so much him as it was her. And to take that away and make her a lieutenant to somebody else, it lessens her. And not only lessens the villain that she was, which is important to the hero that she becomes, but it also lessens her redemption story. And this one, she was like, she can't be a lackey. She has to be the big bad. Otherwise, it's not as interesting and it's not as inspiring when she turns around to become a hero. The number 2 becoming a hero is just like, okay, well, he was the number 2. He's not the shit. Hercules was the shit. But you make her the leader. You make her the big bad, the boss lady like she was. Then when she turns around and realizes the errors of her ways and turns on it, it has more of an impact. And I think they miss that. I don't think they understand that. Taking away how bad she was lessens how good she becomes. You need that redemption arc. It was watching Xena now, you really do see, like, it is the same story as Angel. It's someone who did a lot of bad and is now trying to do a lot of good. And in order to properly tell that story, there are some things you need. And one of those things, and it's something they took away, is they need to not just be a little bad. They need to be all the way bad. And making them just a little bad, it cheapens it. It's not as inspiring. It's not as epic. On top of that, they need a catalyst. And it can't be the catalyst for what it seems, at least in the pits, it seems to be Gabrielle. And then that love story. And that's cool, but it's also very tropey, you know? And it could be done well. I mean, Spike's catalyst for change was Buffy, and that was a romance thing. But Spike's story was never about redemption. Spike's story, like Cole's from Charmed, Spike and Cole are a completely different character. They're not Angel and Xena. Their story is that love overcomes all, even your very own nature. And that's a cool story. And if that's the story you want to tell, fine, but that's not Xena's story. Xena is not a story about love conquers all. Xena is a story about the power of redemption. And what inspires the power of redemption is not love. What inspired Xena was, this is a girl who, when she, and I said girl because I'm talking about when she was a kid, who didn't really have a lot. And she saw brutality and pain. And she wanted, above anything else, power, so that nothing bad would ever happen to her. And so, how do you get power? Well, she saw that power was gained through fear, through intimidation, through show of force. She teamed up with Ares, and all of those views and perceptions were amplified. She got everybody to fear her and to respect her through... She gained respect from everybody through fear, through intimidation. Because to her, that's what power was. Everybody she saw who was powerful did things that way. And then enters Hercules, who is arguably just as powerful as any of the other people she's ever known. Goes toe-to-toe with Ares. But his power doesn't come from fear and intimidation. His power comes from love and respect. He gets power not just from the strength that he has, but because people respect him and they love him. And it showed her that there was another way to go about being powerful. That you didn't have to hurt people in order to be strong. And that was a notion that she had never seen before. Something that she didn't even know was possible. And it inspired her. It fundamentally changed her. And to alter that, it does a disservice to the character. It doesn't empower her. It takes away from her. Because, look, take Angel. When he got his soul back, he didn't all of a sudden become a hero. No, the first thing he did when he got his soul back was he tried to keep being evil. And then when that didn't work, he went into hiding. And it wasn't until he saw a newly chosen Buffy Summers stand up and do what was right that he was inspired to do what was right. And even still, it took him a while. Season 1 of Buffy, he doesn't do a whole lot. He gives her tips and advice, and every once in a while he'll help out. But it's not till season 2 that he starts really getting his hands dirty, and then, you know, more and more as the show and then his own show progress. But he didn't set out to be a hero. He just wanted to wallow in self-pity. And it wasn't until he saw her and she inspired him that he decided he was going to do something good. And the same goes for Xena. She was happy being an evil warlord. And then she met him and he inspired her. And yeah, there was always that kind of romantic tension between Xena and Hercules, but it wasn't the romance that changed her. It was him using his power for good, for others, and not just himself, that fundamentally altered the way she viewed the world. And part of being a redemptive hero like Xena, like Angel, is the notion that Buffy and Hercules fight the good fight because it's the right thing to do. Because they know in their hearts that this is something they need to do. And that's what makes them heroes. Xena and Angel, that's not their motivation. It's part of it, but it's not the core of it. The core of it is, I've done something so horrible, and I need to do whatever I can to make the world a better place, to lessen suffering for others, to make amends for what I did. A big part of it is making amends, is owning up to what they did and trying to set things right. And that is a path, a story that Buffy could never do, that Hercules could never do. That's unique to Angel and Xena and characters like that. And when you lessen the evil that Xena did, it also lessens that redemption. It lessens that drive. And when you put the motivation for that drive on a love story, it also cheapens it. Like I said, Spike and Cole, those aren't redemption stories. Those are love stories. Xena is fundamentally not a love story. It's not love conquers all. It's very much, I can be a better version of myself, and that's what I need to do. And in order to truly have that, you have to have the righteous hero, if you're not in that show, in that universe. And turning Hercules into a villain and having Xena be the big hero, you get rid of that virtuous hero, and you need that. There needs to be a larger-than-life hero that even our hero can aspire to be, because it's a redemptive story. It's a story about being better. And if there's no signpost on how to be better or what a better person looks like, then they're rudderless. I just feel like there's this trope in modern sci-fi and fantasy. They call it the Mary Sue syndrome, and then people get all offended by that, and they're like, "Oh, you fucking fanboys hate women," and it's like, well, hold on, like, not to quote James Cameron, who's one of my favorite directors, but you know, how to paraphrase James Cameron, like, science fiction and fantasies had strong heroic women long before the rest of mainstream pop culture caught up to it, and Sarah Connor isn't one of the most badass characters because she had no flaws. She's a badass character because she had flaws and she overcame them. To me, what this new Xena show is trying to do, essentially, is tell the story of T2 without acknowledging Terminator. And if you were to start with Terminator 2 Judgment Day and never have Terminator and never acknowledge what happened to Terminator, it wouldn't work. That the Sarah Connor character would not work. Because part of what makes that character so badass and so strong is knowing what she was before. Seeing that fundamental change from a waitress who was terrified for her life to this strong badass who could take on anybody without any fear. But to just have a strong badass without any fear, it's a parody. You need that motivator. You need that life-altering thing to happen in order to get you there. But we tend not to want that anymore. I don't know if it's because we're afraid of insulting people. I don't know if it's we don't think the audience will ride with us through an origin story. There seems to be this big hatred of origin stories all of a sudden. But when they're done right, they're good. Like, you can have an origin story. And I think people misconstrued. First of all, not every origin story has to be the same. And second of all, like, I don't know. It just, to me, when I was reading the pitch, it just seemed to miss the essence of the character in a fundamental way. In a way that a lot of modern stories seem to be missing the mark on things. While trying to be feminist, actually seems kind of sexist. When you have a male character, nobody has a problem with that male character having flaws. Nobody has a problem. With a guy character, you could tell any kind of story you want, and everybody will just roll with it. When you have a female character, and you make her a villain, oh, that's a femme fatale. We've had too many of that. It's sexist. We need to get rid of it. When you try to have a redemptive character like Xena, oh no, we can't have that. That's not feminist. It's just, it's the same thing they were saying about the Charmed reboot, that the old Charmed wasn't feminist, and it's like, well, how was it not feminist? This notion that the women heroes have to be perfect without flaws, that is stupid. It's just stupid. Drama, good drama, comes from conflict. And not just external conflict, but internal conflict. And the internal conflict, because one of the things that literally said in the pitch was, oh, Xena doesn't know whether or not to save the day or save Gabrielle. And it's just like, is your notion of a good feminist story just doing damsel in distress? Because that's what it was. It was a damsel in distress. But instead of a guy coming to the rescue, it was another woman coming to the rescue. But it's like, but it's still the same thing. You're putting a girl in jeopardy. You're putting a woman in jeopardy in order to motivate the hero to do the right thing. And it's like, well, hold on. Isn't part of being more progressive and enlightened getting away from those tropes and telling more nuanced stories? Instead, you're just telling the same stories that we've been telling with guy characters, but with women characters, and you're taking away all the nuance. You wanna retell Xena, and you wanna bring the Gabrielle and Xena love story into the light. That's great. I don't have a problem with that. But that cannot be Xena's motivating factor. To make Gabrielle Xena's motivating factor, it doesn't work. Gabrielle is Xena's sidekick. You want to make her her lover? That's fine. That's great. I'm all on board for that. But she can't be her inspiration. Xena's inspiration has to be somebody who's larger than life, and somebody who is righteous. Somebody who does good just because it's the right thing. Somebody who can do evil but chooses to do good. Gabrielle doesn't have evil in her. Doesn't have the power to do evil. Like, Gabrielle, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's a deep lacking of understanding of the character and the type of story they're telling. And I don't know, when I read it, I was very disappointed. I think that they missed the mark. I just think that when they were making the pitch, and maybe the script is really good, maybe the script is completely different than what the pitch was. I couldn't get past the pitch. I recommend reading all of it, and I'll get around to it. It threw me because it missed everything about Xena. And I don't know why, I don't know where, I don't know what the thought was going into it. But it was trying to tell a Spike, a Cole, a Hook story. But that's not what Xena is. Xena, she's Angel. It's a redemptive story. And you don't get there through a love story. You get there through a larger than life hero whose heart is pure. And who illustrates to them that they can be better. But without that, you don't get that redemptive story. Without showing them another way, they don't decide to change. Because that's the crux of it too, is they have to decide to change. If they don't decide to change, then it doesn't count. And I just feel like while this show was attempting to lift Xena up and make her a feminist icon, it took away everything that lifted Xena up and made her a feminist icon. But that's just my take on it. I recommend you guys read it for yourselves, check it out for yourselves. And I just think that I don't know, I think you guys should check it out for yourselves, read it for yourselves. And I just think that if you're gonna remake a character, it should hold true to the essence of what those characters were. And to remake something just for the name recognition, just to get that boost in audience, I don't think that's a good reason to remake something. And if you're going to remake something, I think it should be because you saw something in the old version that you would have done differently? Battlestar Galactica, when it remade the old Battlestar Galactica, it saw the way to make it loved the premise so much, and it saw the way to take that premise and alter it in a way that didn't belittle the old show, but enhanced it. The original Battlestar Galactica would not have been able to do serialized storytelling. And you listen to what they talk about that old show, they were handicapped with what they could do, how much violence they could have, all of this stuff. The new one could tackle politics, could tackle violence, could tackle all of this stuff in a way that the old one couldn't. And that is why a remake of that made sense. Whereas a new Charmed, which I mean, I'm watching it. I don't hate it. I don't love it as much as the old one, but I don't hate it. It's alright. It's an alright show. But I will say this: the first season's about halfway through, and they're burning their way through all the major storylines of the original show. And it's just like, well, did you not have anything new to say? Like, and if you didn't, that's cool, but then why did you make the new show? Because this is like you're saying all the things the old show said. You have nothing new to add to it. But then you take the new Roswell, New Mexico, and they very clearly have a message. They have something that they want to say. They have something that the premise of Roswell can give them. They have something that they can use the premise of Roswell to illustrate. Although they're not doing it well, but at least you could tell that they had something that the old Roswell didn't say that they want to say. And that, to me, that's why you make a remake. Which I guess means I'm all over the place, because the Charmed remake is better than the Roswell remake. But the Roswell remake deserves to have been made more than the Charmed remake, because at least the Roswell remake is trying to say something new, whereas the Charmed remake so far is not. But I guess that's what I'm saying, though, is that if you're going to make a remake, it should be because you have something to say. And not just to make it. And reading the Xena thing, it seems like very much like it was trying to pander. The Xena and Gabrielle relationship, it's one thing that fans always wanted to see made real. So let's make that real. We want to be pro-women, so let's get rid of all the male heroes and make them villains. And it's like, that's cool. If you want to make the female hero that Xena looks up to be another woman, fine, cool, do that. It doesn't have to be Hercules, it could be anyone. But there has to be, like, Angel, the hero he looked up to was Buffy. But there has to be a pure hero for that redemptive hero to be inspired by. And to get rid of that is to lessen the redemptive hero. But that's just my take on it. I would love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below. If you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, all that stuff. You can check us out at our website, blueproductions.com. We have a bunch of stuff over there. You can check it out. And until next time, give us legends.